Hello and welcome back to Not Overthinking. Taimur, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling quite like heavy. I just had like a really spicy Vietnamese curry actually. It's the kind of thing where like it feels good while you're eating it and like it's quite oily and stuff and you know you're going to feel kind of grim afterwards. But it's not like a bad kind of grim. It's like a grim where like you just feel like tired and like sluggish. And there's something like satisfying about being in that sort of state. You know what I mean?
I think it's quite a nice state to be in at nighttime.
Yeah.
I hate being in that state at lunchtime.
Yeah, dude, that's the worst.
It's like literally the worst thing
Ruins
ever.
the day, yeah. And then you have to sit upright at a bloody desk and you know,
Like do some work.
type
Some Zoom
away.
calls, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I physically feel. I think mentally I'm good. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, that doesn't sound particularly convincing.
I had a call with a causal customer, who I'm helping get onboarded about 2 hours ago maybe. And there was some, look, I'll be honest with you. I'll put my hands up. There were some bugs in the product that came up and I'm still recovering from like the embarrassment / annoyance of like being on a call with a customer and like stuff not working live and having to like sit through that.
So what's that like? Can you paint the picture for those of us that don't create software that has bugs in it?
Right.
Or for those of us that don't create software?
That was good.
Thank you.
I think it's a feeling of like embarrassment.
So like, what does it look like? You're on a Zoom call with someone.
You're on a Zoom call. They're sharing their screen. You tell them to hit the refresh button on their data source to like pull in the latest data, and then it says loading, and you're like, okay, that's good. We show a loading indicator. You know, the good stuff. It's loading, and then it keeps loading, and then it keeps loading some more, and then you're like, oh crap. That probably means it's not working. And then you tell the customer, hey, yeah, sorry about that. Maybe if we just try refreshing the page, I think that, that maybe that'll fix it.
Okay. You try and tell them to turn the computer on and off at some point. Deep down, you know that, okay, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah, so you tell them to refresh the page, and then that still doesn't fix it. And then you know that like, oh, okay, we can't fix this. And like, we're just going to have to like gloss over this thing that we were planning to cover on the call because like that thing is not working in the product. And you kind of tell them like, oh, our engineering team are on the case. Yeah, we'll sort it out after the call. Yeah, don't worry about it. We can move on, kind of thing. But it's just like embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and then it's like annoying because you feel hard done by. I feel hard done by.
Why do you feel hard done by?
Because it feels like it was out of my control. I don't work on the engineering side of things.
Yeah.
Bugs are like, they're going to happen. Like, it's just, it's an inevitability, It's just part of life.
Fine.
And so you're kind of confronted with this thing, which, really is nobody's fault. It like,
well, your engineering team might have thoughts about that.
And yeah, you've just got to keep a straight face and stay professional and then feel bad afterwards.
So do you feel a sense of annoyance that why, like a sense of blaming your engineering team for being incompetent and therefore having bugs? Is that like a thought that goes through your mind at all?
I don't think it's incompetence. It's like, there are trade-offs to wanting to do things quickly, and I think if we want to do things quickly, there's going to be bugs, and it's annoying when it comes up, and we just need to try and make sure that the bugs are in the less important stuff and not in the important stuff.
Why are bugs even a thing?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I always wondered this.
Because like the code should theoretically work, like
yeah.
Because I remember back in the days when you and I were coding away on BMAT Ninja and things, circa 2015. There would be a bug, but the bug would stop the whole thing from working, and you'd figure out where it is because there'd be a missing semicolon.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a case of the thing is working, and this is one very specific use case which causes a very specific bug. But from what I've read of like developers stuff and like game developers, these random bugs just prop up where like a wall is not actually a wall in World of Warcraft, and people are like, there are game testers that are out to explore every inch of the polygonal surface to figure out are there any bugs here.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not too like clued up on this stuff personally. Someone's probably created a classification of types of bug that you can have in software.
Okay.
But I think particularly when you have like multiple systems interacting, for example, if we're refreshing data from an external data source, like an accounting system, then, there's a bunch of idiosyncrasies of their system. And that if that, combines with the idiosyncrasies of your system, you might end up in in a state that you haven't really thought of before. And then, yeah.
We had a really annoying bug problem in the last cohort of our part-time YouTuber Academy.
Yeah.
We were trialing this new house system where we split up all 400 people in the cohort, all 600 people in the cohort into houses, 20 houses of 30 people.
Okay.
And we asked them to select what times they could do. And then we all got all those times in a spreadsheet. And we manually, painstakingly assigned people to houses based on kind of numbers and based on experience level and based on what times they said they could do. And then, after Angus spent like a whole 48 hours kind of doing this painstakingly, and finally we published the house allocations.
Yeah.
We started getting a barrage of emails being like, I've been allocated to a house that's not the right time. Why am I in this time? Can I move time? Can I move time? Come on.
Yeah.
And like a couple of times, for the first 3 or 4 people, we were like, they probably filled the form in wrong. They didn't realize they ticked Wednesdays at 2 p.m. But actually, they
user error.
Yeah, user error. And then they kept on coming, and we were like, "Hang on, what the hell is going on? Why are so many people not getting allocated to the right houses?" We did a little bit of investigating, a bit of a post-mortem, like frantically be like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
Turns out that when one of the customers submitted their form, their like Wi-Fi cut out halfway through, so they joined a new network, and then Google Sheets or whatever the Typeform thing resubmitted the form.
Yeah.
And then our data team on the back end, which is not in-house, which is we've outsourced, saw a duplicate entry and deleted the duplicate entry. But it turns out that caused a frame shift for every single person's houses beyond that, where the house allocations were like a different line to the actual data for the individual.
Yeah.
And so that was just how the hell
Yeah.
And afterwards you're like, okay, there's literally no way we could have foreseen that. And like therefore all we can do next time is just double check 20% of the records, just make sure everything is working.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was so frustrating, and I was like, I get why this happened.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying that it happened, but there's literally nothing I could have done about it. Nothing anyone could have done about it. And you just got to deal with it and be like, look, really sorry, you guys.
Yeah. What did you
New
feel?
email.
Did you feel embarrassed?
It was more like embarrassment on behalf of the operations team.
Okay.
Because and in my mind it was a like, how the hell did this happen? Kind of thing. And then I realized, well, everyone's trying their best. Like there's no malice here, and therefore I let it go.
Right.
And then when we found out afterwards exactly what happened, I was like, okay, like you can't legislate for things like that.
Yeah.
But we try.
Yeah, it's just inevitability. Anyway, that's me. How are you doing? You just got back from a little trip to Monaco?
Yeah, went to Monaco for a couple of days.
What's the deal with Monaco? What's the deal with Monaco? That was a Jerry Seinfeld impression.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I used to say what's the deal with X quite a lot at uni. It became almost a meme.
Oh yeah.
And even these days, on like a group holiday with our medic friends, I'd be like, "What's the deal with Marmite?" And then everyone would laugh, be like, "Oh, Hallie."
Classic. Yeah.
Anyway, what's the deal with Monaco? Monaco is like a random country.
Oh, it's a country. I thought it was a city.
No, I think it's an official country. It's like it's sort of like the Vatican.
Oh, it's like a country city.
It's like a country city.
Yeah.
And it's within France in the sense that like to get to Monaco, you fly to Nice and then you take a taxi or a train to Monaco.
Oh.
And the train station in Monaco is actually technically part of France.
Oh.
And so there was some weirdness with the taxi company because of COVID. It's a French-based taxi company, so they're not allowed to pick anyone up from Monaco unless it's at the station, which is technically part of France.
Oh, nice.
And so they picked us up from the station in France as opposed to 2 meters down the road, which was technically in Monaco. But Monaco is a bit of a weird place. It's ruled by the prince, and apparently, it's very much the monarchy rules and decides what goes on.
Yeah.
And whatever they say goes, or something like that.
Yeah.
There's tons of super, super, super rich people. The Monaco Yacht Show is happening about a week from now.
Yeah.
And so there were tons and tons of yachts at the harbor, and they were building all this stuff. I didn't know how much yachts cost. Do you know how much yachts cost?
I think like 10, sometimes hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just completely absurd.
Yeah.
So when we got there on day one, I posted a story, and some dude called Octavian replied to us being like, hey, oh, it's cool. It's so cool that you're in my city.
Yeah.
So I replied being like, can you show us around? And he was like, oh my God, hell yes.
Yeah.
And then he hopped on a train from where he actually lives in France, because you can't actually live in Monaco because it's too expensive.
Oh.
Hopped on a half-an-hour train, joined us, and just hung out with us for the whole day and showed us around.
Yeah.
And he's like super into yachts.
Okay.
And like supercars and stuff. And I was like, so that yacht over there, how much does that cost? He was like, oh, maybe about 300.
Yeah.
I was like, 300 what? He was like, oh, 300 million. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then like, just to see, was like, yeah, that was about 300 million. That one's about 200. Oh, that one's a small one, and that's only about 45 million. And you can see like they've got these, how you've got estate agents and they have houses outside.
Yeah.
We didn't see any of those, but we saw yachts. And so it would be like a little boat, like 33M.
Wow.
Like 43M, 84M, or 12M. Oh, that's a bit, that's a bit affordable.
Yeah.
And then apparently if you want to rent a yacht for a week, we were like, how much does it cost to rent a yacht for a week? He was like, oh, about 120 a week. He was like 120,000.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Okay. This is completely not doable. And in the Monaco yacht show, all of the super yachts from around the world go to this measuring contest.
Right, yeah.
for about a week. And it's sort of like a garden show, but just 18 orders of magnitude more expensive than that. So that was kind of interesting.
Did you like stroll around any yachts? Can you do like a little viewing?
Possibly. We didn't really, because around the harbor there was so much construction because it's like such a huge event. So the views weren't actually great, and there were just like tons and tons of yachts that were just moored there.
Yeah.
Monaco also famously has the Monte Carlo casino.
Monte Carlo?
Yeah.
Nice.
Which previously I'd only ever used in an articulate clue. You're like, I think it's somewhere in France, and there's also a statistical simulation based after it.
Nice.
But now I know that it's a casino. It's like an area of Monaco where there's a famous casino.
Yeah.
And this casino is like where all the ballers go. And famously, this casino has a car park. But if you have a really fancy car, they'll park it out the front of the casino.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so we saw a Bugatti Chiron, something like that.
Chiron?
Yeah.
Not Veyron.
Not Veyron, which
Okay.
was the thing in Top Gear 2005.
Yeah.
Apparently they've moved on, and now Bugatti Chiron, which is the fastest car in the world, possibly most expensive car in the world. It was apparently $1.5 million, as Octavian, our guide, and also Matt, who was our videographer trial. They just spotted it, like, oh my God, that's a $1.5 million car.
Car guides, yeah.
And it was just parked outside, and people were taking photos with it and stuff.
Yeah. So what's the vibe like? It seems like it's like a playground for all these rich people. What do they get up to? What's nice about it, apart from there being other rich people?
So I went over there to interview a chap called Oliver, who is the founder of My Protein, which he sold in 2010 or something like that to this group that acquires stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy now has a net worth of over 350 million pounds.
Whoa.
And so the tagline of his book, which he felt super cringe about, it's called Bootstrap Your Life, which is a book that he's written about life and business and entrepreneurship and stuff. And the tagline is how to turn 500 pounds into 350 million pounds.
Okay, yeah.
And I mentioned that tagline to him. He was like, look, I'm really sorry about that. I just wanted it. Like, I don't want to be clickbaity about it.
Yeah.
I get it. But I asked him why he lives in Monaco. The obvious reason is tax, which he didn't mention. He was like, well, it's not the obvious. Apparently Monaco is a tax haven.
Okay, yeah.
That's not why. It's apparently not why Oliver lives there.
Right.
He said the reason he lives there is because it's really, really safe. And if you're like a high
rich guy,
if you're like a ridiculously rich guy, you have to worry about like bodyguards and stuff in most of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas in Monaco, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of the safest places in the world.
Right.
It's really like connected to all of Europe. It's like a really nice place to just hang out. Apparently everyone there. He said that in the UK can sometimes feel lonely because all his mates have jobs.
All his mates are broke.
All of the mates have jobs.
Right.
Whereas in Monaco, it seems like no one really has a proper job.
Yeah.
It's kind of what living in London seems to be like. And so, yeah, genuinely, it seems like an interesting place to be.
Okay.
If you're into that kind of stuff.
Nice. How did your interview go? Was it good?
It was good, yeah. He talked about a lot of stuff, about his early days. It was interesting. Like he started My Protein in like 2002, and was a web developer before then. His story is super interesting. Raised in like a council estate in Manchester, single mom kind of vibes, and then left school with 1 GCSE. Nearly got sent to prison for like pirating DVDs and stuff.
Wow.
Got arrested by the Federation Against Copyright Theft, etc., etc.
Oh, wow.
Became a web designer and developer, and then had the idea when he got into bodybuilding that like he figured out that Maxi Muscle was selling whey protein for like 30 quid a can.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What is whey protein?" He did some research, found out it was just a waste product of the dairy industry.
Yeah.
So he called up some farmers. He was like, "Can I just buy a sack of whey off of you?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "All right, it's like 6 quid for a sack of it."
Yeah.
Rather than 600 quid for a sack of it, like Maxi Muscle was selling.
Yeah.
And then he went into his garage and like would put whey powder and artificial sweeteners in a bucket and keep on trial and improving until it tasted good.
Love it.
And then he made a website and was selling it like direct to consumer before that was cool. I had to integrate with Sage Pay and stuff to accept payments.
Yeah.
Had to build his own e-commerce thing before like Shopify and WordPress and stuff was a thing, particularly. And then started advertising on like men's bodybuilding type forums back in the heyday of forums. And so it was immediately profitable from day one. Got like convinced the bank to give him an overdraft of 200 quid to buy his first sack of whey protein. Wow. And then the business just kept on growing at that point, and now this guy's worth like freaking 350 million.
That's a real.
It was really interesting. Yeah.
I bought some MyProtein. I think I bought some when I was like 17 or something.
Yeah, I've dabbled with it at one point as well.
Yeah. I think I always liked the branding. The branding seemed like nice and simple and stuff. I was like, yeah, this is the kind of brand I can get behind. Yeah.
It's now a $7 billion company, apparently. It was acquired by this company called the Hut Group, which specializes. It's sort of like a PE firm-ish, but it's like they acquire e-commerce companies and then put them onto their proprietary e-commerce platform thingy, and then grow them, which seems kind of cool.
It's a lot of sacks of whey.
A lot of sacks of whey, exactly.
Nice. Why did you fly out to Monaco for this thing? For this interview? That seems like a lot of work for an interview for your podcast or something.
Yeah, I was wondering this myself when it was like I had to wake up at 4 a.m. I was like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, there's something sort of a little bit romantic and glamorous about the idea of like going somewhere. Like, you're just going on like an arbitrary business trip.
Yeah, it was extremely arbitrary business trip.
Glamour to it, maybe.
I mean, to be honest, we emailed the guy because he had a book that came out and we wanted to interview him for the podcast, and he replied very kindly being like, hey, I'm in Monaco right now, feel free to come over to my place and we can do the interview.
Yeah.
And so at the time, which was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, or maybe about 6 weeks ago, we're like, yeah, why not? That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And booked the flights. And it was one of those things where as you get closer and closer to it, especially because I spent the previous week in Croatia.
Yeah.
And then the thought of coming home for like a day and then going out traveling again. I was thinking this to myself on the train to the airport that like, you know, a few years ago, I would have thought this is the absolute dream, being able to jet around different parts of the world at a moment's notice.
Nice.
It sounds really nice. But in my sleep deprived state at 5 o'clock in the morning, where I'd gotten 3 hours of sleep, I was like, why the hell did I agree to this?
Yeah.
It was a worthwhile trip. I think it's one of those things where like I'm glad I did it, but the process of getting there was a bit arduous.
Okay.
It was kind of fun. And this is sort of what we envisioned with this new podcast, that we'd want to interview people in person ideally rather than over Zoom.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Yeah.
It does make a difference. It's good for the vibes. And if that involves flying to a cool place, making a vlog out of it, making a day out of it, hanging out with the team,
fair play.
That would be quite fun.
Yeah.
So it was me, Angus, and Amber who were there from our team, and this guy called Matthew, who we were trialing as a videographer.
Cool.
I just emailed him, I think it was last week, being like, hey, so we've shortlisted you for our videographer role. How do you fancy an all expenses paid trip to Monaco?
Yeah.
And this guy actually lives in France. So he was like, I actually live in France, so I can fly over there to meet you guys.
Yeah.
So that worked really nicely, and he's cool.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Good trip overall. To be honest, we spent most of it in the hotel on our laptops.
Yeah.
as one does.
Sounds like your dream.
my dream holiday, genuinely.
So the previous week, we were in Croatia with some friends. How did you find that?
That was a dream as well. We were in Dubrovnik, which has got very much, it's where King's Landing in Game of Thrones was filmed. For those of you who have seen Game of Thrones, I know you haven't. You're really missing out.
I haven't, yeah.
I like that thing that you said on day one, where like walking through the city, it feels like you're bloody Socrates.
Yeah. Where like Dubrovnik has this like old city, which is like surrounded by these sort of high stone walls, and then like all the streets are kind of made of this sort of like white stone. All the buildings are kind of made of this white stone, and there seems to be someone who's enforcing, some kind of aesthetic preference for what you can and can't do. And so all like the shutters on the windows, like looking inward to the street, are like the same shade of green and stuff like that. And it just looks like so beautiful and really, really sort of old, like very natural materials, basically. Like, you know, if you walk around London, you see, London definitely has like a ton of old buildings, which are super nice. But also, if you walk around any kind of like major metropolis, right, you'll see a lot of glass, you'll see a lot of like metal, you'll see a lot of like colors that don't really exist in nature, but I think walking around like the old city of Dubrovnik, like there's something special about it, it feels like that's how humans were meant to live. Like it felt so right. Yeah, there was I think a sense of community and a sense of like camaraderie with everyone there, and that resulted from like being in this physical space that was so right. It's like it's how God intended us to live. I really think that, like,
in cities made of stone.
Yes. natural materials, correctly proportioned, the right kind of density of like streets and stuff like that. Just walking, no cars, obviously. It was just like so nice. I think so far of every like city type of place I've ever been to, I think it's definitely my favorite. Yeah, and then like there'd be like random sort of, it seemed like every day there was some kind of wedding going on, and they'd kind of like parade through the street, and then you'd have these like band of like guitar people playing along and singing and stuff.
Yeah, that was a
and
great
like
vibe. Yeah.
there's just such a great vibe, and you really feel like you're part of like the community, and I do think it's like the physical surroundings that create that sense.
Yeah, it was weird. Like I got the feeling when we got into this old city, it felt like being indoors, but not being indoors because the walls were so high.
Yeah.
And it was all made of stone and stuff.
Yeah.
It felt like in Japan as well, they have these sort of outdoor, indoory type areas where it's not really covered, but it really feels like you're in an indoor bit surrounded by shops on either side, and it's just kind of nice. So that was very much the feeling. And again, just sitting on laptops most of the day in a local coffee shop overlooking the sea.
Yeah.
Which is how God intended us to live.
Yes, exactly.
How did you find the trip?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I was just like so blown away by the city. Like I'd never been to anywhere that like looked like that. And I think I need to go back. I need to find more places that look like that. Yeah, really special.
Yeah, fair play. Do we have a thing to actually talk about in this episode, or are we chit-chatting? It has been a few weeks since we've done an episode, despite previously pledging to consistency.
Yeah.
I feel like this has mostly been your fault.
Why?
Because the recurring event is there in the calendar, and I'm always free.
Yeah.
And you randomly oh, sorry, I'm out at dinner with person X, and you never tell me because you don't respect the calendar invite. I think that's unacceptable.
That's true.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like my life is kind of all over the place these days because here's the thing, right?
Okay, but that doesn't mean you don't respect calendar invites.
Okay, no, I agree. I should respect the calendar invite more.
Yeah.
But I think because I spend like half the week in St. Albans and half the week in London, I feel like whenever I'm in London, like there's always like, I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before. Like there's always
like, woe is me, I've got too many friends in London.
Yeah, basically. I feel like there's a lot of like...
We could do this podcast like earlier in the day. It doesn't have to be on a Wednesday evening. You haven't got a proper job. I haven't got a proper job. There's literally 24 hours, 16 hours in the day where we can feasibly record a podcast any day of the week. Why don't you just choose to schedule it at a time where you're more likely to be free?
Yeah, that could work actually. We could maybe do like Wednesday mornings.
Wednesday mornings work for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's actually a better idea.
Send me a calendar invite.
Yeah, I think evenings are always high in demand. And then I feel like there's lots of, commitment. I have like a bunch of like, close friends who I haven't seen in a really long time. And I don't know where I'm going to find the time to kind of meet up with them,
Yeah, mate, I'm down for doing Wednesday mornings.
Yeah, okay, we should do that. We also haven't set up the weekly badminton thing that we said we would do.
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of things going on. Too many friends to hang out with.
Yeah.
I think in fairness, I have been traveling.
Yeah.
And so, as for you. But, speaking of, well, not really speaking of, one thing I want to get your take on, if we're doing a general chit chat, is, how I've been looking for an office for the team.
Yeah.
I realized after viewing some offices the other day that I don't actually want an office for the team. What I want is a studio space, which we can set up like a permanent YouTube studio and permanent podcast studio in.
Yeah.
And then for the team to sort of be in a co-working space like where we work or equivalent, whereby maybe on Mondays and Wednesdays where we have a work from the office day where we can do brainstorming and all the creative type stuff.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time, like if they want to hang out.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a good setup, yeah.
And so I was looking around. There's this really nice co-working space in London called Fora. Have you come across it?
Yeah. I used to work out of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the company I worked for had a floor of a Fora.
They're so nice.
It's really nice. Yeah,
it's like fantastic vibes. It's like
great,
immaculate vibes.
Yeah.
And in a Fora office, it's like they charge £750 per desk per month, and so like a box, so a room like maybe half the size of this living room would cost about £3,000 a month to rent.
Okay.
And the size of this living room would be like a 10-person office, which would cost like eight to £10,000 per month to rent. And I was thinking, okay, cool, yeah, $10K a month, we can spend this. And then Angus pointed out while we were in Monaco that, hang on, if you just want a studio space, why don't we just rent a flat?
Yeah.
Because like, even $5K a month for a flat gets you a hell of a lot of space.
Yeah.
Whereas $5K a month gets you jack shit in terms of office space. I guess because of the difference in pricing between like commercial and residential stuff. And so then that just completely changed my whole perspective on the office thing.
Yeah.
Because before I like over the last few weeks, I've just always assumed, I guess we need an office.
Yeah.
What else do you do it out of? and just not realizing you can actually just rent a flat
Yeah,
and just convert it into a little studio.
Yeah.
So that's probably what we're going to do. And we're going to try, potentially we're thinking of Angus living in the flat as like, get like a, 5K a month, 3-bed flat in central London or something like that.
Yeah.
Angus lives in one of the bedrooms and we just have the other two as like a podcast studio and a YouTube studio.
Yeah.
And the living room is for whatever.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So that might actually work. And then we'll just give every team member a hot desk membership to WeWork or Fora or something.
Yeah.
If we need like the office kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think that's a good like way of exploiting some asymmetries. And when Lucas and I were like looking for a sort of causal company place, we kind of found the same thing where, for whatever amount of money, you could get like a crappy office thing, or you can get like a sick apartment. And I think basically if your team is small, if your team is small enough to be able to fit into an apartment, so like, I don't know, less than 10 people, I guess, then it's just so much more optimal. Like you can just get a way nicer place for a small team if it's like an apartment. I don't know how most apartment places feel about it officially being so, but again, if your team is small, you can get away with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, a few of the places that I've looked where we're speaking to the estate agent, like, oh, so what we're going to be using the space for?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, we're thinking of turning into a YouTube studio. They'd be like, oh, hang on, we have clauses against like commercial uses, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I mean, I'm going to live here. Yeah. I'm going to film in my bedroom, which I've been doing for years, and no one should have a problem with that.
Yeah. I'll be in my bedroom making no noise and pretending I don't exist. It's a Harry Potter reference for the uninitiated.
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of optimal setup really for a small team.
Yeah. And then I was thinking that, but then like, why don't I just live in the flat? And then I was like, okay, now I'm like, I think I do want some level of like separation between work and life.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice. It would be quite nice to have my own space, but then to also within like walking/cycling distance, have a place where the cameras and the lights and the microphones and everything are set up.
Yeah.
To be able to do the podcast or our new podcast or videos or things like that.
Yeah.
I have a couple of other things I want your thoughts on.
Really?
I started reading a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. By our mutual friends, David and Jason.
Yeah.
Can you give some context about David and Jason while I find my highlights?
This is David Heinemer Hansen or something, DHH, and Jason Fried. They founded a company called 37 Signals a long time ago, which is now called Basecamp. They make a project management tool, website kind of thing. They have a website, and they've been opining on sort of company building type topics for quite a while, and they've historically had like fairly contrarian views about how a tech company should be built and company culture and things like this, and they've kind of always very much gone against the grain when it comes to like how hard you should be working. And, like in the summer, everyone in their company works like a 4-day week, and like, their working hours are like super chill, and like it's all remote. I think they were like really big on the remote thing, all this kind of stuff. And I think broadly their whole shtick is that like work should be work, and like companies shouldn't expect employees to like be dedicating their lives to this thing and like working crazy hours and stuff like that. So that's always been kind of their spiel. And I guess this is one of the books that they've written, which I guess is kind of elaborating on that point.
Yeah, basically that's the whole spiel. But there's an interesting like chapter 2 or 3 or something is called Our Goal, No Goals. And I think my philosophy on goal setting has been very much shaped by the Kool-Aid I've been drinking from these guys.
Oh, really?
And so for quite a while, when I first started kind of reading all the blog posts and stuff, probably a few years ago, I've been very anti-goal setting. And then in the last year or so, as I've read more about goal setting and the values of it, I've become more pro goal setting. And I keep on kind of flip-flopping between these states of like, screw goals versus, goals are actually important.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I think when it comes to the business in particular, and I guess the analogies here extend to personal life as well. When it comes to business, a lot of the kind of operating systems for running a business, there's this one that we've been following called the entrepreneurial operating system. They're all very much based on goals, like quarterly metrics and goals and et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to just read out a little bit from Our Goal, No Goals. I'm curious to get your take on it. Quarterly goals, yearly goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. We grew 14% last quarter, so let's aim for 25% growth this time. Let's hire our 100th employee this year. Let's get that cover story so they'll finally take us seriously. The wisdom of setting business goals, always striving for bigger and better, is so established that it seems like the only thing left to do is debate whether the goals are ambitious enough. So imagine the response when we tell people that we don't do goals at all. No customer count goals, no sales goals, no retention goals, no revenue goals, no specific profitability goals other than to be profitable. Seriously. This anti-goal mindset definitely makes Basecamp an outcast in the business world, part of the minority, the ones who simply don't get how it works. We get how it works, we just don't care. We don't mind leaving some money on the table, and we don't need to squeeze every drop out of the lemon. Those final drops usually taste sour anyway. Are we interested in increasing profits? Yes. Revenues? Yes. Being more effective? Yes. Making our products easier, faster, and more useful? Yes. Making our customers and employees happier? Yes, absolutely. Do we love iterating and improving? Yup. Do we want to make things better? All the time. But do we want to maximize better through constantly chasing goals? No thanks. That's why we don't have goals at Basecamp. We didn't when we started, and now, nearly 20 years later, we still don't. We simply do the best work we can on a daily basis. But there was a brief moment when we changed our mind. We pinned up a big round revenue target, one of those fat 9-digit numbers. Why not? We thought. We can do it. But after chasing that goal for a while, we thought again. And the answer to why not became very clear. Because one, it's disingenuous for us to pretend we care about a number that we just made up. And two, because we aren't willing to make the cultural compromises it'll take to get there. Because let's face it, goals are fake. Nearly all of them are artificial targets set up for the sake of setting targets. These made-up numbers then function as a source of unnecessary stress until they're either achieved or abandoned. And when that happens, you're supposed to pick new ones and start stressing again. Nothing ever stops at the quarterly win. There are 4 quarters to a year, 40 to a decade. Every one of them has to produce, exceed, and beat expectations. Why would you do that to yourself and your business? Doing great, creative work is hard enough. So is building a long-lasting, sustainable business with happy employees. So why impose some arbitrary number to loom over your job, salary, bonus, and kids' college fund? Plus, there's an even darker side to goal setting. Chasing goals often leads companies to compromise their morals, honesty, and integrity to reach those fake numbers. The best intentions slip when you're behind. Need to improve margin by a few points? Let's turn a blind eye to quality for a while. Need to find another $800,000 this quarter to hit that number? Let's make it harder for customers to request refunds. How about something really audacious? No targets, no goals. You can absolutely run a great business without a single goal. You don't need something fake to do something real. And if you must have a goal, how about just staying in business, or serving your customers well, or being a delightful place to work? Just because those goals are harder to quantify does not make them any less important. And I found this particularly interesting and was highlighting the hell out of that particular chapter because in the last 6 months since I've discovered a book called Traction, which is all about this entrepreneurial operating system, it is so much based around quarterly goals and weekly scorecard metrics, and every employee has a number that they're working towards, and that number is a marker for their performance. And that's how, apart from the culture things and value fit, how the employee is graded and promoted and stuff is based on that performance, which is all based on a number. We've done a little bit of this arbitrary goal setting. We set our mailing list was at 100,000 subscribers a few months ago, and we said, you know what, let's set a big goal. Let's aim for 150,000 by the end of the year. And having that goal was useful because then for Angus and for Jakob, our marketing guy, that goal functioned as a North Star thing of okay, cool. So now that we have a goal, let's do all these things that we can do to increase the size of the mailing list. And we've hit the goal 3 months earlier than expected. So in that sense, the goal is kind of useful as a way to point people in a particular direction. But I'm still quite uncomfortable with the idea of goal setting. Any thoughts?
It seems like it's worth making a distinction between goals and look, what these guys really object to are revenue targets or growth goals, a number about how much money you make. That's what they really object to. Whether you write it out explicitly or not, everyone does kind of have some goals that they're working towards. That goal might be, I want a chill life and not have to spend too much time, running my business or something. That goal might be, I want my business to be the next, Airbnb or whatever, implicitly, you will in your head have some future that you are trying to create or, that you kind of want. And so I think it's I always say this in the context of modeling as well, around financial modeling, etc. And it's some people go, oh, why do I need a model? Sometimes you don't, sometimes you can store it all in your head. But whether you write it down in a causal model or an Excel spreadsheet or not, you do in your head have some process by which you think your company works, and the goal exists. Whether you write it down or not, the model exists whether you write it down or not. It's often just helpful to make it explicit so that your assumptions are kind of laid out there. And so I think it's worth distinguishing between should you have a numerical sort of revenue goal basically or not, because that's something that not everyone would have. But do you agree that whether you write it down or not, there is some imagined future that you are kind of directed towards.
Yeah. And so I think for me, as much as I can say I don't care about subscriber count and stuff, I do care about subscriber count. It's just that when I make it explicit as a goal, it feels like, it feels dirtier. It feels more explicit. It feels more pressure to hit a goal. Whereas when I tell myself, as long as the number's going up, I'm actually easy. As long as the business is profitable, I'm happy. I don't really care. I think that's true to an extent. But also, Angus was asking me this earlier today while we were chilling in the airport lounge, which we had free access to thanks to American Express Business Platinum. Lol. He was asking why I don't seem to want to build a bigger business, because I just kind of mentioned that throwaway over dinner one time, that I don't really care about having a big business. And he said it was weird because if he were in my position, he'd want to kind of expand the business and grow the team even more and try and build a media company rather than a personal brand.
Okay.
And I didn't really have a good answer to that other than it just doesn't seem like fun.
Yeah.
Because anytime I've tried to grow a business in the past, the bigger it gets, the less I am able to do the stuff I actually want to do. And the less fun it becomes. That's probably not purely because the business is getting bigger. It's probably because I suck at delegating and leading and getting the right management team in place and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But having never really done that properly, I don't know what it feels like to be able to hand off day-to-day responsibilities to a general manager or something like that.
Right.
It kind of got me thinking, like, again, about like the goal stuff around, there's a quote from Derek Sivers I often come back to, which is that never forget why you're really doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Are you helping people? Are they happy? Are you happy? Are you profitable? Isn't that enough?
Yeah.
And I think with our business, the YouTube stuff, the courses stuff is definitely profitable. It's definitely helping people. Most of them are happy. I'm happy. I think most of the team are happy.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that enough? But at the same time, we also have this like thing of like, but we're going to do 3 million revenue this year. And next year, it'll be good to aim for 10 million. And
right.
I sometimes wonder, like, what is the point of all of this arbitrary number setting? How do I deal with this? Tell me.
I didn't really like the base camp philosophy on like revenue goals are bad or anything, because like there's many paths up the mountain. Basecamp is a small profitable software business. It's extremely niche. They seem to be having a good time. They don't seem to be they seem to care about certain things. Some people care about other things, and like I'm sure setting revenue goals, if for whatever reason someone cares about building like a huge company the next Uber or something.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure setting revenue goals, is probably for some people would be a good way to get there. Yeah, I think the thing really worth teasing out is like, what are you optimizing for, and like, why might you want to build a bigger business or something like that, right? There's a thing that people say on Twitter.
A mind virus.
A mind virus. Now, I wouldn't really class this as a mind virus. I think it's just more of like a timeless affliction kind of thing.
I see.
Yeah. There's a thing that people, sort of Silicon Valley types, say on twitter.com. There's a phrase.
I love how you call it twitter.com. Sorry, continue.
The phrase is chips on shoulders, put chips in pockets. And there's this kind of narrative, which is often like put on like immigrants and stuff like that, of like, the immigrant comes to the land of the free and brave, the United States and America, and they have like this chip on their shoulder and wanting to like prove themselves, and that like drives them to want to like build some massive company type of thing. And there's this trope of like people having a chip on their shoulder, and that being like the motivating factor for why they want to become successful by traditional metrics, right? And even people who I would normally think of as like quite thoughtful, quite enlightened. I would have thought, people who I would have thought to be, fairly thoughtful, they say this thing about like insecurity being like it's cool that like, insecurity is what's driving all these people. And it does seem like to a large extent, the thing that motivates a lot of like Silicon Valley types is some amount of like keeping up with it, just normal stuff, right? That like everyone experiences, some element of like keeping up with the Joneses, insecurity, wanting to impress people, blah blah blah. I think for example, that's one reason why someone might want to just like make a number get bigger and bigger, to kind of satisfy that thing. If you are like insecure and you want to keep up with the Joneses, like, yeah, that's something to solve, but you might as well be making more money while you solve it, I guess. But yeah, I think like ultimately it just comes down to like, what do you actually care about? Do you care about like making more money and whatever stuff you think comes with that, or do you care about doing other things? Yeah, I think if you like care about making the number get bigger, I do think a goal would help. Basecamp doesn't care about making the number get bigger, and so if someone wants to make the number get bigger, they'd be kind of silly to listen to Jason Fried and DHH. Yeah, it's just about like, why do I want to make the number get bigger? Yeah, maybe like once a year you kind of start saying something, which it's sometimes like kind of cringe. And I'm not sure how much you actually buy it and whether you're just saying it. It used to be like, oh, I want to be like the most famous medical educator in the world kind of thing. That was the line. I think these days the line is, oh, I want to be like the next Tim Ferriss kind of thing. I always wonder like why, basically. Like what's behind that?
I mean, when I say I want to be the next Tim Ferriss, it's sort of tongue in cheek. And I think there's two things. There's one like the personal goal, and then there's one the business vision. And traditional wisdom is that a business should have a vision that the team can get behind.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that's, yeah.
And if that vision and traditional wisdom is that vision needs to be sufficiently inspiring to encourage people who are, you know, young and in the prime of their life to want to spend their life force on building your business kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so to that extent, I do have to give myself a cringe pass.
Yeah.
In having a vision that, you know, we want to help people, we want to help 100 million people, we want to help people do more of what matters to them, or whatever.
Okay.
And the way to doing that is for me to become more famous in the way that Tim Ferriss is famous, i.e. famous for providing value to a niche group of people.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is through the content and that kind of thing. When it comes to the personal side of things, on the personal side, I don't really care about those sorts of. At least I don't think I do. I mean, to an extent, I think when you have more money, you just definitely you generally have more options, and when you have more money and more fame, in a selfish way, increases your optionality and your ability to do cool things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it also increases the impact you have on people.
Yeah.
And given that happiness, broadly, if we want to define it, happiness equals having fun and meaning equals helping other people. If you can do the whole thing of becoming rich and becoming famous and doing it in a way that keeps it fun, then you're ticking that happiness box for yourself, and doing it in a way that helps other people, you're taking the impact and meaning box. And that seems like a pretty decent formula for living a meaningful life. In that sense, I do care about fame and money. And something like pointing to someone like Tim Ferriss is like, it's like a very easy example of like, oh, this is the sort of thing we're trying to do, where through a ton of really valuable free content, this guy's built up his brand to the point where he's mega rich, mega famous, mega successful, and also has a huge amount of impact.
Yeah.
So that is why I say cringy things like, I want to be the next Tim Ferriss. Okay.
Yeah, I do wonder how much like the actual motivating reasons count, right? Like, I think an example I always think of, right, is like, going to the gym is objectively a good thing to do for your life.
Yep.
Now, if the thing that compels you to go to the gym is that you want to look attractive to the opposite sex, look, you could do worse things than giving into that if it like gets you to go to the gym, right? Like you could become enlightened once you can bench 90 kg, you know?
Yeah.
then focus on enlightenment. But like, you know, so like, I do wonder like, if there are strong positive externalities with something and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and like the wrong reasons, you know, it's not like, they're not like evil, right? It's like, right,
like, sorry, you know.
Then like, how bad can it really be? So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I think it comes down to what you want. Yeah, I feel like one shouldn't go like down the super extreme of like, I must be intrinsically motivated to do this thing for like noble and virtuous reasons only.
Yeah.
Because then you just like sit in your house and not do jack shit, right? So
yeah. No, I think that there's a lot of bullshitting that one does to oneself,
right,
in not admitting these things. Yeah. In the interview I did with Stephen Bartlett, we were talking about this. Annoyingly, it got cut from the interview because it was mostly him talking, and he said he wanted to cut the bits where it was mostly him talking because his audience have heard that kind of stuff. But we were talking about the whole elephant in the brain type stuff, about, you know, is the real reason why I'm keen on building a YouTube channel because I want to help people, or is the real reason because I want fame and status and stuff? And like the reality is, it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
You got to be honest and be like, hold my hands up, be like, look, I'm sorry, I like the fact, I like the money, I like the fame, and I also like the fact that people send comments and come up to me on the streets, being like, oh my god, I love your videos. But
yeah, okay. Now here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like yes, there are multiple reasons for stuff, but you can remove certain reasons and think whether you still.
Yeah.
If it was helping people with no money and no fame, let's be honest, you wouldn't be doing it, right? Like,
well, I mean, I need
probably do
money
that.
to survive.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
But like, come on, like, there are multiple reasons, but you can also like discount some reasons, right?
Okay.
As not being necessary.
And I mean, I sometimes think about this. So like, if I were helping people completely anonymously,
Yeah.
if I were to for example, be behind the School of Life and no one knew what my name was,
Yeah.
that would still be pretty cool, because you're helping people, you're building a cool brand, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not Alain de Botton, but I'm their director of operations or something.
Yeah.
When no one knows who you are, but you're still impacting people, that would be pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, for sure. But if option B was to have your own personal brand where you,
I'd rather be Alain de Botton for sure. Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Where I'm helping people and also people know my name.
yeah, yeah. I think,
But if
like,
it's the option of getting rich and famous without having impact, I wouldn't choose that option.
yeah, I think like to some extent it's just an issue of language of like, you know, if someone else, you know, the question exists, which is that like, well, why are you doing this thing?
Yeah.
And it's kind of implied that you're supposed to give like a single one-dimensional answer.
Yeah.
And that's not really how it works. And like fundamentally, like, yeah, there's going to be lots of reasons. Some of them are going to be more virtuous than others of them. Yeah, I think it's broadly worth considering, like, you know, the path to enlightenment of not having the non-virtuous reasons for doing stuff as like a separate thing, maybe, as like the thing. Because, like, you know, for example, I think that, again, the gym thing is a good example where you should still go to the gym even if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because the positive externalities are very strong. And like,
And eventually you can work towards getting to a point
Yeah.
where you once you've gotten married.
right, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Where now you can go to the gym just for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good example. Like,
Why are you doing causal? And don't say it's because you just want to change the way people think about numbers.
I want to bring probability to the
It's quite a lot of work. It seems to be quite a lot of stress. I imagine it's quite fun as well. Like, you probably wouldn't have it any other way.
I think, like, I don't know what else I'd be doing. Like, what the hell else am I going to do?
Okay, I mean, you could come work for me and be our kind of part-time CFO and make 40K for working 2 days a week. That's something you could do.
Okay.
You could get a job at Facebook and make...
When can I start?
Well, you can apply for on aliabdaal.workable.com. You could join Facebook, Google, insert big tech company here, make 200K a year easy. Being doing some HTML and CSS. You've got options.
I think...
Why are you choosing to do causal?
Yeah, I think I need to make some money somehow, right?
Okay,
You
fine.
know, I think I'd really struggle to have a real job. Like, I've tried it 2 times. And I think I'd struggle to be motivated
Okay,
to...
fine. It's hard for you to be an employee once you've tasted freedom.
I think even
of this
before I
sort of
tasted freedom.
You could, if you wanted to, become a professional thought leader through twitter.com, through tamor.substack.com, through notoverthinking.com/paid memberships. And you could easily tick the box of, earning enough bread through those endeavors. You could write your manifesto about kids. You could literally spend 2 years of your life blogging about why we do bad things to kids.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can find a way to monetize that within like 3 to 6 months. So such
Right.
that you don't need to try and make a startup where you're talking to customers and onboarding them and getting bugs along the way and all this other BS associated with Monte Carlo simulations and all this jazz. So you do have a large amount of options here.
Okay, I think there's different questions, right? There's a question of like, why did you get into it? And there's a question of like, why do you keep doing it, right? And I think like, if for example, you know, you ask someone, why did you choose to have kids? I think their answer is probably different than if you ask them, you know, once their kid is a few years old, if you ask them like, why do you keep doing this shit?
Yeah. Well, I suppose why don't you put the kid up for adoption?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
It's like, dude, what am I supposed to do now? I've got this fucking kid. Like, what?
Okay.
I've
I've got to feed it. I've got to water it. I've got to clothe it.
this thing exists. Like, I've got to...
I've got to do something with it.
So I think, you know, day to day, like, it's not, you know, not something sort of
You don't really think about, like, you just think,
It's like this thing exists. I feel, I feel like it is like this sort of very meaningful part of me. I don't know what it's like to have kids, but like, it's, it's just causal, and like, I'm not just going to not do that anymore, Yeah, I think that's why I continue to do it, because like,
I've started, so I'll finish type thing.
no, I'm happy to quit things. It's just, yeah, I think, it does give me meaning, and like it passes the time.
Like having a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps me busy.
Yeah.
No, look, I think it ticks a lot of boxes that I care about in my life.
Okay.
But really the reason I keep doing it is because it's like this baby, right? That's the reason I keep doing it. I'm glad it ticks all the boxes, because if it was my kid and it wasn't ticking the boxes, like that would be a tough spot to be. Right? So that's the reason I do it. That's the reason I keep doing it. Yeah. I think, I think there are other things I would like to do with my life. I'm happy, these days to basically spend all day working or whatever. All right, to be clear, I don't actually, I have a lot of time for other things. I'm happy to like spend a lot of time working, get things up and running off the ground. And then, a couple of years down the line, hopefully once things at Causal are kind of fully set up and we have like a team in place and so on, and I can focus more on, big picture stuff and not have to like be on calls all day. Then there are other things I care about, the kids thing, there are other projects I would like to spend more time on.
Becoming a stand-up comedian, writing your own Modern Family.
Yeah, having like a mockumentary TV series.
How about life at Causal?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, for the next couple of years, I've got to raise this kid, and I'm not doing it for any one specific reason, but like, basically, I don't like the framing of your question, is my answer.
The framing of my question did not imply a one-dimensional answer.
No, it didn't. I don't. It happens to tick some boxes, and I never wake up wanting to not do it. So that's why I keep doing it, I think.
Nice.
No, if it didn't tick some of those boxes, maybe there would be more days where I wake up not wanting to do it. Sure.
Fair play. Right. I have a hard stop because I have a session with my writing coach now. So thank you everyone for listening. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Bye-bye.